Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Al from easymedicaldevice.com, and today we'll continue our series of discussion or interviews with some key people within the quality and regulatory affairs field with our series from zero to one. So mainly within this episode, we have Mitch Robbins from the Anthony Michael Group. So Mitch, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hey, thanks, Monir. It's been a while, my friend, and I appreciate you
Exactly.
having me on.
Yeah, so yeah, we had you already on the podcast to discuss mainly some projects of hiring or how to maybe have being the good candidate within being a good candidate for some hiring people. But here, as I've said, what we want to mainly to know is more about you, about your company, about what you are doing. So the idea is mainly to inspire people maybe that really want to work in the hiring, maybe sourcing for quality and regulatory affairs. And yeah, mainly this is how it will be working. So are you ready for answering some maybe personal questions?
I'm ready. Bring them on.
Great. Okay, so mainly first let's talk about the companies mainly. So you have your company called the Anthony Michael Group. So how did you choose to do this as a business, like working in in the sourcing, hiring, job, etc. So was it something like you were really interested about since a long time, or it was just by accident you arrived there, or how it went there?
It's funny. It's funny you asked that because I don't know one a recruiter who could tell you that they, grew up and said, "Hey, one day I'm going to be a recruiter."
Okay.
Usually, you fall in by happenstance somehow, and my story is not much different. So this we have to go back to 2008. At the time, um, actually back to 2004, I was working in a corporate job for a major retail chain in based out of Minneapolis, and had moved there. I was originally from Chicago. I went to school in Wisconsin. Came out of school in 2003. Was working where I did an internship, which was Walgreens, the pharmacy retail chain, and was doing retail management. Well, at the time, I had dated somebody all through college. She got a job with General Mills corporate in CPG, and that was based in Minneapolis. And so I ended up moving up there. I took a job as a business analyst for a company called Marshall Fields, which is like was a department store chain at the time, and I was responsible for um, stocking inventory for all their stores in women's legwear of all things. And I said to my boss at the time, "How did I end up in women's legwear?" And they said, "Well, we thought your personality was very a really good dynamic to the team, so we put you there." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." So, long story short, we ended up having a breakup after a very long relationship, like 2 months after I moved to Minneapolis. And I had always been music had always been a passion of mine.
Yeah, I saw
And
that. Yeah.
so I responded to two ads in the paper because I knew nobody in Minneapolis. And I'm like, I got to do something. One was for a cover band with a bunch of older guys. I just did not fit the role. Another one was with original band. Well, long story short, it ended up being a pretty successful journey. I ended up quitting my full-time job and traveling with this band for like the next 3.5, 4 years. I was the manager. We got some music featured on a variety of MTV reality series at the time. We were
Wow.
on a variety of morning news programs. We opened for some very major acts, and I kept extending my timeline of how long am I willing to serve in a restaurant and try to make my dreams come true of being a famous musician. I kept extending the timeline. Long story short, fast forward to 2008 or so, I decided, you know what? I gotta get back to it. And at that point, I thought about going to law school. I applied to law school, and I thought about getting into real estate. At that time, the whole entire economy shifted, right? At the end of
Yeah, 2008.
2008,
Yeah, true. Yeah.
and I was doing an internship in real estate. I lost my job. Well, while I was thinking about going to law school, I had walked into a staffing agency
Okay.
because before I spent the time and the money on law school, I wanted to make sure, is this really what I wanted to do? And I went into a staffing agency downtown Minneapolis to try and get a clerkship in a law office to see if I could get a sense of what this is really like. When I was in there, I had this thought in the back of my mind that my mom had always said, "Hey, I think you'd make a great recruiter."
Okay.
What she meant and what my mom knew of recruiting at the time was campus recruiting, where you go to college fairs and you represent an organization's brand and you do some interviews with college students. So when I was in the staffing agency, I said, "What do you guys do for a living? I don't think I really understand. Like, what is it?" Well, that conversation, she remembered that conversation right when I lost the apprenticeship I had in real estate for a commercial real estate appraiser. I got a phone call saying, "Hey, Mitch, are you still interested in possibly doing recruiting? We have a spot for a researcher." And in the recruiting world, a researcher basically helps build data, build lists of prospects to call, research candidate profiles, and helps support the recruiter to be on the phone. Fast forward, I end up taking that job. Well, within like 30 days, they're like, this guy's not a researcher. He's picking up the phone and making cold calls and he's doing lots of things very quickly. Let's make him a recruiter. And so that was with a big age, a small office, but part of a big agency in the United States called, it was called the Mergis Group, but then it was owned by a company called Spherion. And I was in part of the logistics, transportation, supply chain business. That's where I got my start in recruiting. And I fell in love with it. The idea of this, like it was a hunt, right? You gotta literally go out there and make something from nothing on both sides and put people together that otherwise wouldn't have known about each other. And then a year later, I just needed a change in my life and I was thinking about moving to Austin or Phoenix. Austin, Texas was so humid when I got off the plane. I said, I can't do this. Phoenix, I didn't really want to spend half the year inside because it's so hot. And somebody said, why don't you check out Denver, Colorado? I said, why in the world would I want to trade one winter for another? And they're like, you don't understand. It's beautiful weather there. What you see on TV, the snow is in the mountains. It's 300 plus days of sunshine. Long story short, I cold called my way into a job out here doing hospital leadership recruiting, became the fastest person to become a managing partner with the firm. And then in 2015, I was at a crossroads where I could either stay or I could go and try to build something from the ground up that I could call my own, and decided to do that. And the name of the company, the Anthony Michael Group, came from my firstborn. Anthony Michael was actually born, ironically, you and I at the time of this recording, it's July. He was born on July 4th. And I started my company in October of that year, and that's how I came up with the name. So, as far as I'll tell you one more piece to it, because I'm sure you're going to ask me. When I left, I wanted to honor the non-compete that I had, and
You
so I
what?
was faced when I left my. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I left the organization, I had a non-compete, and I wanted
Okay.
to honor that.
Yeah.
And so I basically had to start a brand new niche, like from scratch. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I have a friend who is very successful in the pharma and the biotech space. And as I was doing research one night, late at night, I texted him and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this idea of regulatory affairs? It seems interesting." And he goes, "It is the toughest nut to crack because nobody wants to talk on the phone. But if you could figure it out, it's in significant demand." And so I planted my flag, said, we're going to start with regulatory and quality as a complement to it. And we're going to work um, doing that. And here we are 10 years later.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, when you tell your story, it was like, okay, now I see where you are coming from, but why quality and regulatory affairs then? What's the link between that? But
Yeah.
okay, no, it's really great. I mean, it's really by
Well,
chance, all this.
yes. And I told you about my interest in law. Well, one
Yeah.
night, late at night, I was researching. I'm like, well, I used to do supply chain. Maybe I'll do that. I'm interested in law. What is close to healthcare that doesn't put me in the hospitals, but keeps me close to healthcare. And I must have typed something in on the internet that was like legal, healthcare, medical, and regulatory popped up. And that's how I figured it out.
So it means that since you start now your own business as an entrepreneur, only quality and regulatory affairs, you are really focusing only on that.
A big portion of our business over the years has been regulatory and quality. What I tell people is we touch everything from a recruiting standpoint within device, digital health, and diagnostics that is not sales and not software engineering. It just so happens that the foundation of our business has been quality and regulatory, and therefore a lot of people know us that way. And a vast majority of our business over the years has been in those functional areas.
No, it's great. I mean, a great story and a great niche that you have selected, which is really good. So now again, since how long you started your company now?
This is our 10th year.
10th year. So since 10 years now, you are working quite in regulatory affairs. So what are the most challenging interactions that you have maybe with some hiring managers, with some people from this field? Because as I said, this field is really special. There are some special needs, some special requirements. So what are maybe some challenging things that you have with them?
I would say the challenges are trying to help them, and I say this respectfully, but trying to help them get out of their own way.
Okay?
Sometimes they can be their own worst enemy when it comes to running a smooth hiring process. And I think oftentimes when you're hiring, you don't you kind of think with the blinders on. We need this. Um, we have these projects to get done. I have this to report to my boss. Um, but they don't realize, well, hold on a minute. What is the flip side of the coin? What's in it for the person that you're trying to hire? Why they should come and work, stop dead in their tracks, see this as a no-brainer to at least have a conversation with you, and make this pivotal moment in their life happen to come work with you. And can you think in their shoes that's going to help you? That's number one. Number two is I understand you have a vacation coming up. I understand that you have six people that you want to talk to this person. I understand that you want to pay X dollars, but the market tells us you need to pay Y dollars. Can you get out of your way a little bit and streamline the process so that you can get ultimately what you want? So I think those pieces are tough. And then with candidates, I think candidates and clients, there's such a, unfortunately, a negative um, perception out there about what recruiters do, who they are. A lot of times people, I think, associate with sleaziness, commission breath, salesy, because unfortunately there's a lot of people out there, and this could happen in any industry, but in ours for sure, where people are just trying to chase a quick dollar. And so
Yeah.
they're blasting things. It's a lot of fly by night. And so it takes time to develop some trust and some credibility to say, hey, if you're not interested in working with me today, it's no problem, but we are going to be here tomorrow. And when you're ready, we're here. I think those are some of the primary challenges.
Hey, just a second. Do you need a EU, Swiss or UK representative? Then choose Easy Medical Device. We can represent you and also become your importer. Contact us at eo@easymedicaldevice.com. So mainly matching also this. I mean, as you said, the hiring manager has a lot of expectation. He's really looking for somebody that has all the skills possible, know all the legislation, has tens of years of experience, but to pay him as low as possible. So it's mainly this kind of thing here. So are you coming here like putting really the reality also of the market, what is happening on the market, and tell them, guys, you never find that on the market. It's like I think some on the real estate, somebody that says, I will sell my house $1 million, but at the end it costs maybe nobody will pay that. They will pay maybe 300,000 and nothing else. So it's like you are coming and putting this reality on their face and say, guys, you are crazy. It's not working this.
That's a great analogy, actually. And yeah, I think one of the reasons our clients appreciate working with us is because we're not order takers. We're not yes people. You're hiring us to be a consultant and to give you a real perspective as to what's going on in the market and give you real insights that's going to help you make educated decisions in your company. And if something is unrealistic, I think they're counting on us to shoot them straight. So absolutely.
So, in terms of, we talked about this perception of people having this perception of you are here just for the money and for things. So,
Mhm.
can we disclose to people how you are paying yourself to this? So, is it like you say, oh, my prestation will be like on an hourly basis if I take some time, or it's a percentage of how much you will be paying this candidate, or what is exactly the rule? Or maybe there are multiple rules. Maybe you are using one, but there are multiple models for like those payments. Just that people have an understanding of how many you are getting paid for this.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, I'd be happy to educate your audience so that perhaps more people understand kind of what's going on behind the scenes and why maybe one recruiter is like, here's the company, here's all the information. The other recruiter feels like it's playing cat and mouse, like they're not telling me who the company
Yeah,
is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So there's a couple ways that recruiters can get paid. Number one, if they hire contractors, the recruiter makes money either on a flat fee basis or a margin above what the candidate's getting paid hourly. That's one way. The second way, on a full-time basis, is a recruiter can get paid on what's called a contingency, where if the recruiter finds a candidate and the company hires them, if and only then will the company pay a fee to the recruiter. And it's more often than not a percentage of the candidate's first year salary.
Okay.
The third way is where a company will either retain a search firm and pay them some money up front to have them be the exclusive provider of search services for that role, and then hold the search firm accountable to fill that position no matter where the referral comes from. Everything comes through one homogenized screening process, and and then the search firm is accountable for making sure that role gets filled. Typically in that model, there's some money up front and then the rest on the back end, or there could be some money up front and then some more money upon reaching a milestone, maybe presenting, three candidates, and then the final milestone after the placements happened. What happens in the real world is, let's say a recruiter is working on a contingency basis, meaning they only get paid if and when they ultimately make the placement. Sometimes companies have this perception that we're going to put a few agencies on the search. We're going to do our own search. We're going to get more candidates because we've got more pools to choose from. It more often than not ends up being the complete opposite, because what happens is the recruiters know they're not the only ones working on it. So now it becomes a speed game. How fast can I present a resume before another firm does? And so a recruiter will do very surface level work. Who do we know right away? Can we send out a mass email and hope that something falls out the bottom? And let's get some resumes out there as fast as we can to protect our referral credit. Well, what happens after that initial push and the company still doesn't have the right candidate? Nobody's really going deep and wide into the market because it's risk for them. If I put more time on this search, but the probability of getting paid is pretty low. Why am I going to do that when I need to go focus on something that's higher probability of where I'm really going to get paid? And so you get surface level, mediocre work from multiple sources, but nobody's really got the client's best interest at heart. They've got their own best interest at heart.
Okay.
And so when a recruiter calls a candidate, it's like they want to know everything about the candidate, but then it comes time to talk about who the company is. It's like this cat and mouse because they don't want to lose the idea of a referral. Of the candidate going around them, or I call Munir's not interested. He picks up the phone and calls his buddy down the street and is like, hey, I just got a call from a recruiter about XYZ company. That person applies directly. Guess what? The recruiter doesn't get paid.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some nuances to that. And I'm not here to knock any model. I would say that there's pros and cons and times for all of them as to where it's appropriate. But that's in essence how recruiters get paid. It's
Okay.
not through the candidate, it's the company is the client.
Okay. So there is some injustice on some time on some contracts, like there is no fair play sometime also with this kind of game.
I think it's more educating the customer as to what they're getting. If that's what they want, great, it's the right model. Or if they've got candidates in process and they want to do their own search, but they want to make sure that they're not missing something else that a recruiter might know about, it's an added supplement. But if you want to map the market and have the confidence you're hiring the best available from the market, not just the best available what's in front of you, then hold one organization accountable for results and give full transparency to the client of, here's who could do this job. Here's what we're doing to reach them on your behalf. Here's what they're saying about your role. Here's what the feedback is as to what we might need to tweak to help you get what you want. And by the way, we're not going to stop searching until the role is filled. There's different ways of doing it, but I think a lot of times there's just such misconceptions out in the marketplace because nobody's really taken the time to slow down and educate what are you getting in return for what you're giving.
Okay. Can you also tell us more about the situation now for the quality and regulatory affairs fields in terms of um, the context in the market? So, is there more candidates, or is there more offers, or it's really dry? The market is dry, or what's the situation actually in quality and regulatory affairs from your side?
So I told you this is our 10th year in business. I have seen such a radical shift, such a radical shift. You know, regulatory and quality is never going away. no matter what people
Yeah,
tell you about AI. AI
yeah,
is going to be, it's going to be a superpower for regulatory and quality. It's not
exactly.
taking people's jobs, right? So it always be in demand. But I have seen a major shift being from being a candidate driven market where the candidates have the upper hand, they have the leverage, they have the power, they have multiple offers, to a very, very client driven market where there's less jobs than there are candidates.
Okay.
And
So
so and this has really happened over the last, I'd say, probably 24 months or so. And I think the folks that I'm talking to who are struggling to find work are having kind of a punch in the face moment where it's like the way we search for jobs has drastically changed, and there is so much noise out there that you really have to be skilled at building a personal brand and skilled at finding ways to add value and rise above the noise just to command enough attention to explain your skill set.
So, do you think AI had a is a reason also for this dry market in terms of jobs? Because if we are using AI, as you mentioned, the job is still there. There is still the candidate, the people that will be working quite in regulatory affairs. But maybe with AI, instead of hiring five people, I just need two, and the AI will help as an assistant and work on that. So, can it be a reason for maybe less demand?
I can't say no 100% because that would be foolish on my part, but I would say I don't think so yet. I think people are still trying to figure out what is this and what are the efficiencies that we can drive from AI. And I think there's still a lot of organizations that are sitting on the sidelines or perhaps a little overwhelmed as to where to even start. When people ask me what's been the catalyst for the primary shifts in the market, what I go back to is I feel like there was a pretty significant overhiring during COVID.
Okay.
The interest rates changed. Investors got spooked. Money got sidelined. Companies used macroeconomic news to restructure their companies. We've gone through all these mass layoffs, and it's like just been this snowball effect that's happened all at once over the last 2 years. That's what I see.
Okay. So do you think there will be some increase that will arrive in the near future or
I think just like any market, it has its cycles, right? And I think that as kind of these global economics resolve themselves, right, and companies get a little bit more comfortable as to what's going on politically and have some sort of feeling of stability, I certainly think that things are going to change. And just like every market we've been through, it does. It absolutely does. And I think that maybe some of these layoffs too, the pendulum's going to end up swinging. And they're like, oh my gosh, like we laid off too many people and bring them back. It's like the same thing over and over.
so how are you working also with your company? Are you alone or are you with some employees working? So how are you making this whole system work and to source candidates, to source the jobs and to make this match, etc. So what is your structure?
Yeah. So we have a few employees on the team, some who are account managers where they will service clients, run a deal end to end as far as helping recruit the candidates, present the candidates, run the interview process, negotiate the deals. Um, I'm the face of the business, right? So I run a podcast, the MedTech Talent Lab, where I
Yeah.
interview folks across the industry on all things talent related. I do a lot of the new business introductions, and then we've got a team on the back end who helps a lot with um, the admin stuff and procuring lists of candidates and helping with our database, things like that. But I would tell you that in our world, I've been very heavily invested in technology and in AI for at least the last 8 months as to how it can create efficiencies for us. What we tell clients is if you give us a search, what you can expect is that you will start to interview qualified talent within 10 business days.
Okay.
It's not a guarantee because things happen, but I would say, like, with pretty significant certainty, that we show up and deliver within 10 business days, filling searches in weeks instead of months. And I attribute a lot to that because we've developed pretty um, good end to end processes of what happens when we take on a new search. What do we do internally? How fast can we get the messaging out to prospective candidates? And what does that mean in terms of delivery time to our clients?
So, are you starting to use also AI within your business to maybe look at those CVs and find a match or this kind of thing?
So there's some AI that you can rank candidates based. So if you have a job description and you say, okay, I want you to look at these candidates against this job description, and I want you to rank who's most probable to be qualified against this job, you could do that. Um, where we use AI is to help us create hyper personalization at scale.
Okay.
So nobody likes to be reached out to as if it's a mass email,
Yeah, yeah,
right? People want to feel
exactly.
like you took the time to do research.
Exactly.
And I don't see anything wrong with having technology help you do that
No,
research.
it's
So
fine.
if I can find a way to make sure that if I'm going to reach out to Monir, I know who Monir is, I know where he's worked, I know what he's doing. I can at least hopefully warm up the idea that I've taken some time to understand you before I reach out. So I'm not reaching out to you about a head of food service when really your background is medical
Exactly.
device, right?
But I had some case like that where people are reaching out and asking me for a job. I say, well, this job has nothing to do with me, so why are you contacting me? So I say it's just a mass email that they are sending to people, just changing the name of the person.
Yes.
And just you read that, you close that and you shut that off. But yeah, having an email where they talk about me, what I have done, how it's interesting, etc., then it will attract my attention if I can send. Then I will read it and maybe, oh, maybe it is interesting, etc. For that. But yeah, I think this can help, as you mentioned. It's really a help to not make some cold calls, but really find something that really is more hot then.
Right. That's exactly right. And so what we're finding is because you go back, you reference back to what I said about candidates having to rise above the noise. We as recruiters, there's never been so much noise in this. I've been a headhunter for this is my 17th year. There has never been this much noise in the marketplace like there is. I get spam text messages every single day from a recruiter saying I've reviewed your resume. I don't have. What are you talking about? And so when you've got all these posers, the players have that much more heavy lifting to actually say something credible. So it's really hard. It's hard.
So hoping that everybody will use AI so that there is less noise maybe and more focus on those kind of roles. Okay, so yeah, in terms of advertising, as you said you are using podcasts. What else? Because you are an entrepreneur, so many you
Yep.
created your business, you created the company. So I suppose the difficulty is to, as you said, with all this noise, also to make yourself visible to that they are using you as a recruiter. So how are you making yourself visible with all this noise? And I heard the podcast, but is there anything else?
The podcast has been big because it's put me in conversations I probably otherwise wouldn't have had. So that's
Exactly.
been huge. Um, LinkedIn has been a big one as far as trying to have a voice on LinkedIn. I would say doing a good job for current clients, and then they introduce you to somebody, or I knew somebody 5 years ago, and because I knew that person, I had more credibility with somebody who was friends with them. Being on other people's podcasts and trying to be out in the marketplace. Just, I think it's really just about awareness and where can you find influencers who serve the exact same market as you and find a way to add value to their audience as well.
No, I think it's great because yeah, here it's not like an employee job. You just are not just doing the job of an employee. You are here like an entrepreneur, so you have to make a business run. So, how was maybe this transition really from being an employee to start your own business? So, was it easy? Was it difficult? Where did you find some yeah? Were there some kind of delusion saying I'm it was not really what I was expecting?
So I find that the best podcasts are when guests are as real as possible, right? It's not scripted. It's
Yeah,
true like
exactly.
vulnerability. So I'll be vulnerable with you and your audience. I remember sitting in my basement at the time when I first started, like 14 hours a day, 17 hours sometimes. And I just remember almost in tears, like scared out of my mind. I had a wife. I had a wife at the time who was upstairs nursing our newborn. She wasn't working, and I thought, oh my gosh, like what did I do? Because I had just become senior partner at the firm and life was good. Was having my best year ever. I literally left like during my best year ever. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do? To the point where I even had conversations with my old boss about possibly coming back. And right during those serious conversations, there was a piece in my gut. It was like, this is hard. This is really hard if you change your mind and you go back, you're going to never forgive yourself
Agree.
ever. And I thank God for that moment because if I did, I never would have had the opportunity to learn as much as I've learned over these years. Marketing, finance, operations, sales. You like the entire business rests on your shoulders when you're starting, right? Even to
Exactly.
this day, the majority of the the oversight stuff does. And I've learned so much. I've met so many people who've been mentors of mine, and I've had to push myself so hard. But to say that, yeah, just it just happened. No way. I don't think any entrepreneur in the world would say that. And there's been so many nights where I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like the only person that can pull me out of this mess is me. And like I can complain about it, but literally the only way this is going to change is if I do something about it. And I think you can only explain that to somebody so much until they experience it for themselves. And you as a business owner, I'm sure you would agree.
I agree. Exactly. And it's why I'm saying my next question is, do you regret now, or is it was it because for me it was really the best decision I made to create my business and to get out of these corporate jobs and everything. I don't say the
Yeah.
corporate job was bad. It's just that I think what I'm doing now, I really appreciate and I really like it, and I'm really I'm excited to do my job, but I don't regret it. So, from your side, is it the same or
100%. I wouldn't change it.
okay?
No, despite the trials, the tribulations, the lost sleep, I wouldn't change it. No way.
I mean, at that point, would you be able to come back to a job with a boss, with everything?
I thought about that and I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could because you're so used to working for yourself. I don't know. I'd have to think long and hard about that. But I just appreciate the fact that I've been able to move fast, been able to pivot fast, I've been able to um, um, innovate, and like I make that decision.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
I don't have to have three different approvals and four different meetings on it. That's a big deal.
I like that because it's exactly the experience I have. It's like when I was before, I had some ideas, I have to give that to my boss, and the boss had to go to his boss, to his boss, to his, it was like a never-ending story.
Yep.
And now I myself, I have an idea, I just say, okay, let's put it in place and let's make it. And it's nobody has to
Yes.
decide, it's me, so it's fine. I really like that. Um, in terms of family, because you talked about your wife and how it's working. I remember for me when I had to start my job, I had first to convince my job, my company had first to convince my wife. So did you had to do the same also to really have this hard decision to, as you said, move from your corporate job to this? So was it also a family decision, or really no, you moved it and they had no choice, if I can say?
Yeah. So in full disclosure, I got divorced in 2019. But credit to her because it was probably 4 months, 6 months of conversations back and forth. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Should
Okay.
I? And she was always supportive of like, hey, if this is really, what you want to do and this is going to light some fire under or some passion in you, then I support you. And it was a big um, it was a big move on her end because she was staying home,
Yeah.
right? Like she was counting on me, and so she believed in me enough that I believed in myself that this would work out. So absolutely, it was a family decision at the time, and I credit my brother at the time too because um, I have two brothers, and I had a conversation with one of them, and he is more analytical sometimes than I am, and we
Okay.
kind of talked it through and. It took a whole army, I guess, behind me for me to finally say, you know what, I'm doing it. And I remember turning in my notice and I could almost, have you ever had an out of body experience where you
Yeah.
almost like are witnessing yourself? It was such a weird thing where I'm like, everything logically says, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're on top of the world production wise. You've got a newborn at home. You've got a really good team around you. What in the world are you doing? And so when I turned in that notice, it almost felt like an out of body experience. Like, oh my gosh, those words just came out of my mouth. It's go time. It was very strange.
No, I think it's really, I think it's really an experience that a lot of people maybe will recognize because yeah, it's difficult. The jump is difficult, but when you do it, mainly there, it has to be done. In terms of family, also as you mentioned, so are you like 100% on a job, or you take also some time for you and maybe your son or family to enjoy some time here? Because what we
Yeah.
think always is that, oh, when we are the boss, we have a lot of holidays and we can go on the beach with a computer and work from there, etc. So, how is your experience also having free time, if I can say, with your family?
So I probably like most business owners have been almost the opposite over the years. And if I have two boys and time goes by fast. My son, my oldest Anthony, he just turned 10. I'm like, how are you 10 years old already, right? And so I've had to work really hard at trying to balance that anxiety of I got to be at work. I got like if I'm not there, the world's going to crumble. I had to balance that with you only get one shot
Yeah.
at having a young family and really with coming to terms that memories and time are more important than business success. And I credit my team for being able to hold things down, hold the fort down if I want to take a day off here or there. But I still struggle with it. I think one of the biggest struggles I have is even when I say I'm off, I'm not. A lot of times I'm not really off because this darn thing that I'm holding in my hand, the cell phone, right? And so anybody who's listening, if you can relate to this, I think one of the biggest challenges is to say, look, I'm not looking at this email for X amount of time. The world's not going to, come crumbling down in the next 4 hours. In 4 hours, I'll give myself an opportunity to look and make sure everything's okay. So it's a constant struggle. But yeah, I think being an entrepreneur and having the opportunity to leave to go on my son's field trip when I want, or, my son's having a lunch at school where the parents can, like things like that. I'm very grateful for the flexibility. Absolutely.
But I saw also a video of you making music with your son, guitar, something like that. I saw that on LinkedIn. So can you tell us the story of this, maybe? Because I think it's a awesome moment where you can include also your son on your passion, if I can say so. It's great.
That's awesome. And until you just said that, I had completely forgot about that. So yeah, Anthony and I a few years ago, we wrote a song together about um it was basically to the tune of one of Elvis Presley's songs, and it was about getting a job in regulatory. And I just thought it would be, he loves to sing and he loves music, and that's awesome because I told you music's been a passion of mine. And so one time we sat down together in the basement and came up with this idea, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put this out there because I think it's hilarious that one, the name of the company is named after him, but two, I just thought it'd be cool for the community to see that, hey, this is me bonding with my son in a way that it's kind of funny about what we do for work.
No, I think it's great. As I said, it's really great moments that and you had that on the record, so it's something that you can even show to them in the future, which is really
Yes.
awesome. Um, okay, now. If you hear, I mean, because we have some people that maybe are interested also to do this kind the same business as you, to say, okay, let me myself open a recruiting firm, let myself do this kind of job also, etc. Maybe not in the US, but maybe let's say in Africa or in Asia or whatever. So if you had to give them some advices or recommendations for starting such business, so what would be your maybe top three, top four, top five recommendation that you say, don't do this or do this? So mainly what are the mix here?
My first piece of advice is don't do it. That's my first piece of advice. No, in all seriousness, like it's brutally hard. And I say this in all seriousness. When I used to interview people at my last company, and even for our company, I will do everything I can to convince somebody that this is not for them. And my thought behind that is, if I can convince you that this is not for you, it's really not for you. Because who am I to tell you
Yeah,
what
true,
is good for you or not?
true.
It's the people who fight against that and say, no, this is good for me, and here's why. Those are the ones you want on your team, right? And it's the exact same thing with a candidate. I always say a third party cannot blow up a deal. If a third party can blow up a deal, it never was a deal to begin with. Because a
Exactly.
company who really wants a candidate and a candidate who really wants a company are not going to let, the third party stand in the way of that. But as far as, you know, uh, serious advice, I would absolutely, my personal recommendation, I would absolutely not go and start your own firm without any experience. I would go to one of the big box players in your neck of the woods, one of the big trusted brands, get a really solid foundation, get your feet wet as to what this job really is. Make sure that you like it, get enough skills, and then think about starting. But don't for a minute think that just because you got the experience means that you're going to be a good entrepreneur and a good business owner. Because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, right? And if you aren't willing to shoulder that load, it's definitely not for you. I would say people who don't mind just being in a 24/7 constant state of work, um, it's good. And what I mean that is you've got to, we work like realtors, right? So you got to work when your customers are available. If a candidate has a job and they can't talk to you until after 5, guess who's talking to you after 5,
Yeah.
right? Or if you're upset or you get hurt easily because somebody hangs up on you, or somebody says, take me off your list, or somebody says, we don't work with recruiters, or, you know, calls you a vendor, like all these different things that come with, actual true sales, which is what this, it's the purest form of sale. One of my mentors said it best. It's the purest form of sale because you have a sale on both sides. You have a sale to sell your services to a company. You have a sale to help candidates see that this might be the best fit for their career. So does that help, or did I not really say
No,
much?
no, it's really great. I mean, because as I said, it's really this experience that people don't see on the back end. As you mentioned, maybe somebody will wake up a morning and say, "Oh, I will do a recruiter job because it looks interesting. You can make a lot of money, etc., etc." And but all the hours that are behind it, and all the no, as you said, no, you should handle the no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. So it's like,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, a salesperson, that the ones that are going door by door and knocking on the door to sell their machine or their thing, and they are receive a no, and no, and no, and they should not give up, and you should move forward, etc., etc. So I think it's, as you said, it's really a pure selling job also. But here, as you said, the difficulty is the two. You have in one side the customer, in the other side the candidate, and you have to make the match between them. Are you seeing that also as a match related, like a relationship? When you have two lovers that you have to make them match together. So is it the same feeling here, or?
100%. Yeah. I started the conversation with you by saying I don't think there's a greater feeling than putting two people together who otherwise wouldn't have known about each other, and then they go on to do big things together, right? And it really changes people's lives. And then people call you and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for when you called me. Otherwise this never would have happened." That's amazing. But yeah, I not only is it the purest form of sale, but you've got people. Your product is people, and people think, they think different from each other. So yeah, the idea of trying to make good matches is very complicated.
No, I think it's great, and yeah, I really thank you for all the openness that you have, all the frank discussion for this. In terms of your company now or your future, so what is next for you now? What are you looking at for the next years or that are coming now?
Yeah, so I'm excited about two things. We're going to continue to grow here at the Anthony Michael Group and continue to try and not only um, serve deeper and wider our current clients, but continue to bring on new clients within the space. I love the space because it's always evolving,
Yeah.
always. And what's going on with digital health and how AI is going to impact the industry is pretty exciting to watch. Simultaneously, I'm really excited behind the scenes. We have built something brand new that I think is kind of the evolution of recruiting
Okay.
as to a new alternative model, how companies can hire at a fraction of the cost, much faster, but still retain the caliber of talent that retain the opportunity to hire the quality of talent that they're looking for. And I'm just about to bring it to the market. I'm very excited about that as well. So we're going to run both simultaneously.
Okay, great. I mean, happy to hear about that. So, I mean, for people that are listening, maybe follow up with Mitch Robbins from the Anthony Michael Group. I will put all your details on the show notes so that people can check that. And also, I will put maybe the information about your podcast for people that want also to listen. Again, what is your podcast about? So, what are you talking about within the people that you are inviting as a guest within your podcast?
Yeah, so I'll explain that, but I just want to stop for a minute and thank you. I was thinking about this. I've been on your show a couple times. You were one of the first guys I met, years ago,
Okay.
when your podcast was taken off and your content was taken off. And not only did you welcome me with open arms, but I think it really helped several times to have, I brainstorming sessions with you, and
Yeah,
you're a
I
great guy
remember.
who adds a ton of value to the community. So I appreciate you, and thanks for asking about the podcast. But it's called the MedTech Talent Lab, and the whole premise is all things talent within the industry, from building high performing companies and teams to high performing careers. And so I'm proud to say I've got about 130, almost 130 episodes out there where we feature best in class leaders from the industry, and we kind of go through their journeys. It's been anything about, recruitment and retention to, hey, I want to be a vice president, but not everybody who wants to become a vice president can become a vice president, to CEOs of startups who are first time CEOs and what's that journey like, and everything kind of in between. So I've been privileged to have some really amazing conversations. I encourage anybody who's interested in kind of that topic to check out the show for sure.
Yeah, if you are really looking for being a leader, a manager, or something like that, I think it's this kind of podcast that you have to listen because you will learn from leaders and managers that are also growing their careers. So I think it will be really interesting. And thank you for the kind words also. So it was really appreciated because yeah, as I said, I try really to give some value to the community with as I said, some information from also with you about how to get recruited, how to show the right a real good CV, how to answer the question from some interviews. So I think it's also some good values for that. And learning also your journey is interesting because I think people will now understand more why they should maybe use some recruiters and how they can benefit from it also. So really, thank you, Mitch. It was really a pleasure. I hope yeah, all this will help also people to get some inspiration. Maybe they will be becoming recruiters because of you. So, I mean, if
And
after listening all this, they want to become recruiters, it's really that they want to become recruiters and this is their passion. So it's really, really great. So, Mitch, really,
and for
thank you very
those,
much.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. And for those who you just mentioned, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. If you want to reach out to me directly, I'm always happy to help. So I
Great,
appreciate
great.
it, Monier.
Thank you very much, and I wish you really a nice day.